To set in the sleeve, I've put the right sides together of the sleeve and the outer jacket, and I have basted this into position. Here I've gone through all the layers of the sleeve and canvas and front of the jacket. The sleeve lining is tucked inside the sleeve as we don't want to catch this. Then we have gone all the way around, matching our notches. When we come to the shoulder pad area, I've just snipped that so I can ease it out of the way as we machine stitch in our sleeve, as this would be too thick to go through the shoulder pad. I've used a run-in stitch, if we look on the sleeve side, to baste in the sleeve where the fabric is net. So this is from notch underarm to the back sleeve notch. On the sleeve head, we have ease. So to ensure this ease does not slide around, I've done a back stitch around the sleeve head to secure the ease to make this easier when I machine inset the sleeve. So once we've basted in the sleeve into the jacket, we can look at the pitch of the sleeve. This is the angle in which the sleeve comes towards the front to represent the relaxed position of the arm when it's at the side of the wearer. The seam construction of the sleeve sits naturally at the back to form a break, and the front of the sleeve, the pitch, comes forward and sits about halfway or just in front of the halfway mark on the flap. So this gives us the correct pitch and angle of sleeve that we are looking for. So I'm now going to machine stitch in my sleeve. I prefer to work with the sleeve uppermost, so as I'm constructing I can see the ease and make sure that it's not moving, but this is a personal preference. It's a centimetre seam allowance for construction, which is allowed on the pattern. I'm starting towards my underarm position where I know the insertion is flat, and as I progress I will come towards the ease. So with the basting in place, this really helps and makes this process so much easier. The layers of the sleeve and jacket are secure. We just have to watch that we maintain our seam allowance. So as we come up the back panel here, we can now see we're starting to see the ease. We have our shoulder seam here, which is flat and open, which again is secured into position with our basting. So our notches are together for our alignment. I'm just tucking the shoulder pad underneath, but also folding it out of the way because we know we don't want to catch that in our sleeve insertion. Without the basting and having to maneuver so much, this would be very difficult. So this is not something to avoid. It is not a shortcut to leave the basting process out. So I can feel the thickness there as we're coming onto our canvases and where I have the shoulder pad folded out of the way. So we're starting to curve for our underarm. And again, we can stop and adjust as many times as we wish to ensure we're stitching around the curve. We don't want to be straightening the curve out. Make sure our needle is in every time we stop before we readjust. So this will hold the work into position. We're almost all the way around. I'm just running over my start point and back tack for security. Trim all thread ends. Keeping the work clean. We can see then our shoulder pad will sit back flat. Also, we can see where I've basted the sleeve in. In some points, my basting is past the seam allowance. So here I'll unpick this to make sure it's not visible from the right side. But if it's within the seam allowance, we don't have to worry. So once we're happy with the way we've set in the sleeve, the next thing we need to do is secure the shoulder pad in place. So here we baste the shoulder pad into the seam allowance of the sleeve inset construction. So I'm going to start where I've nicked the canvas at the front. But here I am going to backstitch a couple of times to secure this area because I've weakened it with that snip. So I'm just going to go in and out on the same place, creating the same stitch a couple of times just to keep this secure. Now we need to bend the shoulder pad as we baste to how it would be on the wearer. So if we look at it as we have it at the moment, the jacket is inside out. So the shoulder pad actually curves the opposite way. So when it's on the wearer, we'll actually be curving this way, not how it's lying because we're inside out. So we need to make sure when we're basting in, we curve the shoulder pad away from us to put enough ease in the shoulder pad as we go over the sleeve head. We want to create that curve. So I'm basting through all the layers of the shoulder pad and the jacket, but the stitch itself is only within the seam allowance. Now I'm going to start bending the shoulder pad as I stitch, or otherwise the shoulder pad will look too tight in the jacket. We need to squeeze in that ease to the shoulder pad. So if I turn it around so you can see the other side, we are bending it over. I'm not starting from this end of the pad, which I think would be easier to sew in, but I'm not quite sure exactly where this is going to end up because of the ease I'm going to inbuild into the shoulder. So it's a little bit awkward, but we have to start from the other side and bend our sleeve as if it was in the right place. So just take your time, bend in the shoulder pad as we go, keeping all our raw edges together, shoulder pad and seam raw edge. At the front, there are lots of layers to go through. It does become easier as we pass the shoulder seam. So again, just move the jacket around so we can ease in that shoulder pad. You just keep basting along the edge. Don't have to be too particular on your stitch size here, as long as it's not seen. We don't want to come past our stitch line. And you can see I have this in a contrast thread, so it's easy for you to see. So we keep going to the end of the shoulder pad. We're nearly there. So I'm just going to do a couple of back stitches at the end to secure my basting and to ensure the shoulder pad doesn't come unstitched. So we want to hold that in place. Once we're happy with our shoulder pad and the way it's looking, we can put this back on the stand to make sure we've put in enough ease over the curve. Then we will baste in our shoulder roll. So next we're going to insert the shoulder roll. The shoulder roll is a piece that we insert that fills out our ease in the sleeve head. Now the shoulder roll comes in many shapes and sizes. You can have some like this, which is on the roll and you cut to length and we baste in, or the ones we have that we're using here have a preset shape with a canvas end. So the canvas side goes towards the front, and I am positioning my canvas where it finishes to where my shoulder pad on the other side starts. So this is now going to be basted in the seam allowance of our sleeve insert, but this time this is basted inside the sleeve, whereas the shoulder pad is on the jacket side, the sleeve roll is on the sleeve side. So my canvas is coming down, it's touching the seam allowance of my undersleeve seam. So again, I'm just going to do a back stitch to start to make sure we are secure. And then I'm just going to baste through the seam allowance to hold in place. Again, I'm sort of curving and shaping as I go so I don't baste it in too tight. I'm not worrying about my stitch size. All our concern is easing it in and that we are basting within our seam allowance. So we can't see our centimetre seam on the side of the seam roll, but we can see it on the back, so we can make sure we're within that line. And we need to do this all the way over the sleeve head. So this will make your sleeve head look clean, whereas at the moment you might think that it looks as if there's added fullness there and we don't have a smooth line. This will fill out that shape. Again, like some of the other processes, I'm going to find this is going to take a few minutes. So if you wish to zoom on the video to the end of our basting, please feel free. So as we're coming to our shoulder pad area, it becomes a lot thicker and more difficult to baste. So here, if we don't go through all the layers, it doesn't matter. We can just catch some of the layers. It's not going to go anywhere. But if we don't come through all the way to the other side, it's not an issue. So you can see, just making sure we have that little bit of ease. We don't want to cause any restriction when the jacket is turned through to the right side. So as we come down, we continue to ease. The bulk is getting less because the shoulder pad is getting thinner as it comes down the shape. So it becomes easier just to stitch and finish off these last few centimetres. So again, as I've done with the shoulder pad, I'm just going to back tack here to finish off, just so it stabilises the end of the sleeve head roll and our basting does not come undone. So this area is now complete. We have our sleeve set in, our shoulder pad is stable and held in position, and we have our sleeve roll in the arm. So once this is complete, we're ready to finish off the lining.